if that's an honor, and it's a pleasure to be together today. And from Arizona Faith Network, we give you the warm welcome to this program. This special virtual learning session is to explore the Baha'i faith tradition. So it's shared by local Baha'is. This session is offering an introduction to the history, teachings, and spiritual practices of the Baha'i community. So we are engaging today in interfaith dialogue to learning more about this tradition. So we welcome you warmly and we are very happy to connect with you. So in this presentation, we will learn about the basic concepts of the Baha'i community and the personal interactions with others. My name is Basu Bandhu. I'm a Buddhist monk and I'm serving as the interfaith manager for the Arizona Faith Network. And now I will pass the time to Peggy and Nicholas. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm just going to start by saying that, this is a warm welcome and wide embrace from all of the Baha'is to all of you. And, we're honored to have you in our presence as we share something very near and dear to us. And any Baha'i can be up here talking and sharing. And there's no clergy in the Baha'i faith, and there's no leader in the Baha'i faith. We're all just individuals, and we're striving and learning together and serving together in many different capacities. And so I guess we'll start by saying, can everyone see the screen? Is it clear? Is it easy to see?
Yes, we can.
Good. Okay. So the Baha'i faith is one of the youngest of the world religions. It's fairly recent, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But Baha'u'llah talks about this concept of religion as a continuous process that has started since ancient times and will continue. And so he says this is the changeless faith of God, eternal in the past, eternal in the future. And so the Baha'is see this iterative, progressive process as the changing of the seasons or chapters in a book. Baha'u'llah sometimes describes it as like giving a little bit of milk to the baby, and then as the baby gets older, you give them more food. And so that's what we're seeing in the Baha'i faith is the latest chapter or a renewal of religion for the new world that we're living in, which is constantly in a state of change. So the purpose of religion, as Baha'is understand it, is to establish unity and concord among the peoples of the world. And so the purpose of religion, unity, oneness, bringing people together, binding people together. And so we shouldn't make religion the cause of dissension or strife. And it's a big challenge because in history, religions or the followers of religions have tended to fight with each other quite a bit. So we have to strive to overcome that. Progressive revelation is one of the main concepts in the Baha'i faith. It's a fundamental core teaching related to the oneness of God, the oneness of religion, and the oneness of humanity. And in progressive revelation, the Baha'i writings teach that a divine being has come as a representative or messenger from God. There is one God, infinite, unknowable, divine being. and that these messengers are selected and sent to share the words and the wisdom from God, but they are like reflections. And this is explained very well by Abdul Baha, that a divine manifestation is as a mirror reflecting the light of the sun. The light is the same, and yet the mirror itself is not the sun. So I'm paraphrasing this by saying that a mirror, we are all mirrors. All of us are mirrors, and we have to polish our mirrors. But these divine manifestations are like perfect mirrors that will reflect the most amount of light and for that time in humanity. This is an example of the major founders of the world's religions that we believe are part of this progressive revelation from God. So Baha'u'llah says that all the prophets of God abide in the same tabernacle, soar in the same heaven, are seated upon the same throne, utter the same speech, and proclaim the same faith. And so an example of these are Abraham, Krishna, Moses, Zoroaster, Buddha, Christ, Muhammad, the Bab, and Baha'u'llah, which we believe are the twin manifestations for this new age. And all the faiths teach fundamentally the same core spiritual teachings. One of the examples of that is the Golden Rule. In the Baha'i faith, one example is given here: blessed is he who prefers his brother before himself. So I kind of see that a little bit like, we always say from the Bible, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And in a way, this is the Baha'i teaching is taking it a little bit of a step further and saying, prefer them over yourself. Give deference, give love, give joy and happiness, and do everything as if they are even more important. They are your guest. Your brother is your guest, is you're hosting them in your life, I think. So, and all the religions have these, and I think for the sake of time, I won't read all of them, but if you want, we can come back to them if we have more time later.
When we talk about our religious interactions, Baha'is are actually encouraged to have interactions with people of all religions, to do so in a friendly and through fellowship. If you think about it, we actually appreciate the similarities as well as the diversities of all of our religions. Everybody kind of brings something to the table, and because of the fact there's a little bit of diversity in that, it makes it a little bit more interesting. One of the things that I want to tell you about is my husband was a Baha'i in New York City and in the Queens area. And when he was a Baha'i, he is a Baha'i now, but anyway, his parents encouraged him to go to various different religious groups, of his friends, the different organizations. And in doing so, as a kid, a lot of times they send you to the children's classes, right? And his observation at that point in time was the fact everybody's kind of saying the same thing. Now, this is the observations of a child, obviously, but on the other hand, you kind of say, is that not really still the case? So we encourage our children to interact with people of all religions. And matter of fact, I'm a member of various interfaith organizations because of the fact I like interacting with everybody as well as doing good works together, which is one of the beauties of these organizations. Regarding justice and unity, I would suggest that they are the epitome of the Baha'i faith. That's what it's all about. That's why it says, the best beloved of all things in my sight is justice. Turn not turn not away therefrom. If thou desirest me, and neglect it not, that I may confide in thee. With that, if you think about the golden rule, love thy neighbor, it's basically we're talking about loving everybody. And when we're looking to find real justice, then we can uncover that through finding real truth. Unfortunately, in our current environments, I think sometimes that's a little tricky to do. But the search for the truth, if you're devoid of any preconceived ideas and prejudices, allows us to seek justice. What is just? What is right? And when we achieve truth and justice, then we can move toward unity and peace. Baha'is believe that we are spiritual beings who happen to have a body right now. Now, I will tell you, I'm not going to read these quotes, so I'm going to give that to be your job. But with that, we have our essence is our soul. And so with that, we need to continually develop our spiritual nature. We've already established God is not an old white man sitting on a throne, that he's instead an unknowable essence beyond our comprehension. So in this, when it says, have engraved on thee mine image, which is in the first quote, what is he talking about? Obviously, he's not talking about physically, how do I look? What he's more interested in is our spiritual qualities, developing truthfulness, trustworthiness, justice, forgiveness, kindness, and compassion. Now we know that God is the most compassionate. He is the most forgiving. He is the most just. We can't aspire to that. That's beyond, because God is beyond our comprehension, beyond what I can even imagine. However, I can, though, decide what am I going to do with my capacity. I do have a capacity to develop these qualities. So but it's my decision to decide, do I want to be a truthful person? Do I want to be trustworthy? Do I want to be kind? When I was a kid, I saw the movie The Song of Bernadette. So I don't know if y'all have ever heard of it, but it's about this nun who is selfless and kind. She's just like incredibly kind. But she turns out she's actually always in pain as well, and she never complains. So from that, I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool to become a nun? Well, I wasn't even Catholic at the time. I was Presbyterian, so that obviously didn't happen. But you kind of think, well, what was it about this movie that attracted me? And of course, the fact it was the development of virtues. So I think that this is something that we all kind of really aspire to. Regarding the nature of the human beings, we believe we are all created noble. Noble have I created thee. That's what Baha'u'llah says. So with that, we actually don't believe in original sin. We believe that we're noble. But it's up to us to then develop that nobility. And we have some choices on that. We have our animalistic or lower nature, where we're selfish and greedy and cruel, and we can be so much worse than animals. Or we have our spiritual or higher nature, where we can be truthful and kind and thoughtful. So we need to strive to adhere to God's will rather than our will, because sometimes the things that we want, that we think we want for ourselves, are really not good for us. And if you think about it, if we all were to do that, we would not only improve ourselves, but also the whole of society. So we're going to make mistakes. We're all human, going to happen, but we all keep trying to do the right thing. We also have a concept of, we don't really have the concept of Dante's vision of heaven and hell. I remember seeing this painting, and there was this, there were two angels, one with this little bitty book and one with a really big book. And the names in the little bitty book, those were all the people going to heaven. People in the really big book, these were the ones going to hell. And I thought, boy, that's kind of a depressing situation. But instead, we have the concept of closeness and farness from our Creator. And it's through our spiritual growth that we become closer to God. So it is my feeling, remember, this is just my understanding, that we're kind of in a spiritual womb. Kind of like if you think about a baby, it develops, legs and arms and lungs, even though actually in the womb they can't use them. Well, here we can use those spiritual qualities, but in the next world, we're going to continue to need those spiritual qualities and continue to develop them. Because fortunately, I do not believe that this short little 90 plus or minus years that we live on this planet is going to determine my eternity. I'm going to continue to grow and develop. But it's one of those things where I kind of get a leg up if I've already worked on developing those spiritual qualities. So developing these spiritual qualities benefits both ourselves as individuals and the whole of society, because it makes society much better. And by the way, that's how we move toward that world peace.
So let's talk a little bit about the history of the Baha'i faith. There's a lot going on there. And it starts with the Bab, which is the first manifestation of God that I mentioned earlier. And then his name is a title in Arabic that means the gate, or the gate to God. And he declared his mission on May 23rd of 1844 in Shiraz, Persia. And what followed this was a very severe genocide of persecution towards the early believers. And he was martyred for his teachings on July 9th of 1850. One of the key components of his revelation was to ask his followers to search for a figure that would be even greater than himself, who he referred to as the one whom God will make manifest. Baha'u'llah, who is the founder of the Baha'i faith, fulfilled that promise, and his name is actually also Arabic, and it means the glory of God. So it's like Baha o Allah, if you like pull it apart in Arabic. And he declared his mission on April 21st, 1863, after he was banished to Baghdad in Iraq in 1854. Just before he was banished, he was placed in the worst prison in the Persian Empire. And after he was banished to the Ottoman Empire, he was placed in the worst prison in the Ottoman Empire. He endured 40 years of imprisonment, torture, and exile, and during this time revealed over 20,000 tablets. These tablets, they have many different topics addressing the spiritual journey of one's soul and metaphysical subjects, interpretations of previous sacred texts, proclamations of his mission to world leaders and religious leaders, and also revealed laws and principles for the Baha'i faith. He outlines the features of a world civilization and all of the social and justice-oriented principles that are needed to operate a world civilization. And he appointed his son Abdul Baha, which means servant of the glory, as the interpreter of his writings. This is the journey of Baha'u'llah's exile. He left Tehran in 1853 and journeyed with his family over a perilous journey of mountains and arrived in Baghdad in Iraq in 1863. He left after he proclaimed his mission in the Garden of Rezvan, which means paradise. And that is the most important festival in the Baha'i faith, is the 12-day festival where he announced his mission there in Baghdad. Then he traveled through his exile up into what is now Turkey, arriving in Constantinople in August of 1863. And then he also was taken by boat over the Mediterranean into Egypt and then into what is now modern day Israel. So he arrived in the Holy Land and he was imprisoned in the prison city of Akka. And so around this time between 1860s, he wrote all of the tablets to the major leaders of the world and announced his mission.
One of the things that the Baha'is believe is that world peace is inevitable. It will happen. We do not believe it will occur through an army of angels making us play nice or through magic. We believe that we have free will and therefore we must work for it by achieving our development and our spiritual qualities. So there are some prerequisites in order to have world peace. Some of them I've listed more on here, but the one I'm going to talk about are the elimination of all forms of prejudice, the equality of women and men, the harmony of science and religion, and the independent investigation of truth. And as you can see, there are several others. We will kind of touch on compulsory education for a reason that you will become manifest in a moment. Okay, when we look at the oneness of humanity, we believe that we are all one human family. Ye are the fruits of one tree and the leaves of one branch. Deal ye one with another with the utmost love and harmony, with friendliness and fellowship. So with that, you kind of say, all right, if we have an us and them type of relationship, that does not encourage the oneness of humanity. If you think about it as a family, we're looking for a functional family, and currently we have a dysfunctional family. Because you'd never consider throwing out your sister just because of the fact she was different from you. At least I'm going to say in a functional family. You would not eat huge meals knowing that your brother's starving. You would not criticize your wife just because she's a woman. You recognize that everyone is a person and everyone deserves our respect and the opportunity to become their best selves. When we look at the equality of women and men, we think of it as two wings of a bird. One is woman and the other man. Not until both wings are equally developed can the bird fly. Should one wing remain weak, flight is impossible. So with that, I'm going to tell you a story. I was at work and my boss recognized I had some capabilities and such and decided I should be promoted to a management position. However, he decided that I was too tender-hearted and that so what he did is he put two groups together and he hired a man to be the other person in the other manager. Well, it turned out I ended up managing 16 of the 20 people and the other guy managed 4 because they wouldn't work for the guy. But my manager did not recognize that we were equals and that we could work through this if we were both treated equally. Needless to say, it didn't turn out well. But with that, men need to work for the equality of women as much as women need to work for the equality of women. And that's actually the same for all forms of prejudice. We all need to be part of eliminating this. But in that same vein, women need to see men as we equals. So again, we've got that equal bird type of thing going on. If we look at the harmony of science and religion, religion must stand the analysis of reason. It must agree with scientific fact and proof so that science will sanction religion and religion fortify science. Both are indissoluble, welded and joined in reality. So if we think of this, the way I think of it is, God made a perfect universe. He made all the rules, and they're perfect. So he doesn't need to break the rules to make things happen. I remember seeing this story about the Red Sea. Now, remember the parting of the Red Sea was when the Jews were trying to escape from Egypt, and the Red Sea parted, and just at the right time, and the Jews were able to go through, and then when the Egyptians came through, they get covered up with water. When this program, they suggested that there was a tsunami from an earthquake that had occurred at that point in time. Now, I would say, that's a totally logical explanation of why that phenomenon could happen. So whether you believe in the parting of the Red Sea or not makes no difference. But the concept of that is that there can be providence. And providence is actually one of my favorite things because you're hard-pressed to prove that God had a hand in it. But on the other hand, you can't prove that he didn't. So you kind of say and when things seem to happen just at the right time, I kind of feel a lot of times that there's some providence going on in that. Basically, we believe, though, that religion without science falls into superstition, and science without religion succumbs to materialism. So in the Baha'i faith, as Nicholas mentioned earlier, there is no clergy, either paid or unpaid. We have representatives like us. I mean, it's just one of those things where we're just members of the Baha'i faith who volunteered to do this. You're getting our understanding of it because the sacred writings are the authority. Everyone is required to learn to read. Remember I told you I'd come back to that compulsory education? Everyone is required to learn to read because it's the responsibility of the individual to read the Baha'i writings for themselves, as long with other holy scriptures. Each person must decide for himself what he believes is the truth. So it's my personal responsibility to say, when I read this, does this seem right? But our job, again, is to pay attention to God's will rather than our own, because the fact we can sometimes, it may be more convenient but that's not necessarily the best thing for us. Now, we do have discussions, though, about the Baha'i writings. I can read it, and we might, in fact, actually, we have a group that gets together every other Tuesday, and we're reading certain passages, and somebody may say, this is what I think about this, and I said, well, this is what I think about this, and we can discuss that. Or I may say, I don't get this paragraph. Can somebody else have ideas about this? But again, it becomes back to me. It's my responsibility to decide what I think is correct. Because of the responsibility to investigate the truth for myself and not blindly accepting what others say is very important.
So the Baha'i faith does have a system which was established in the writings of Baha'u'llah and Abdul Baha, and also Shoghi Effendi. And Shoghi Effendi was the great-grandson of Baha'u'llah, and he was also the guardian of the Baha'i faith. And so he wrote voluminously about a lot of this as well. And so Baha'u'llah established this idea of councils which is headed by an international council, which is the Universal House of Justice. And so I'm going to start from the grassroots and work the way up. A local spiritual assembly is a council of 9 members elected by the local Baha'i community. So each town or city will have its own local spiritual assembly as long as there's 9 Baha'is in that community. And then if there are more than 9, they have an election every year and to select who will be the 9 in the assembly. The National Spiritual Assembly is also elected every year, and that's in every country around the world. And there's 9 members of that council as well. And that is elected by delegates from around the country who are selected to go and represent their areas and elect the National Spiritual Assembly. Then every 5 years, all the members of the National Spiritual Assemblies around the world go as delegates to an international convention and elect the Universal House of Justice, which also has 9 members. And all of these folks are ordinary Baha'is, and they serve as servants to the community and administer the needs of the community. But it is not a clergy. I just wanted to, emphasize that they're just regular Baha'is. And the process that we use in decision making in the Baha'i community is also found in the Baha'i writings. And it is called consultation or Baha'i consultation. It includes a certain spiritual process of approaching the problem in a prayerful attitude, calling and seeking divine confirmations in the decision-making process. And then all of the facts need to be gathered, and all of the spiritual principles that may be relevant to that discussion, all of the Baha'i writings which may apply and principles which may apply. And this enters into a frank and loving discussion where everyone's views are respected. And when one person puts an idea on the table, it ceases to be their opinion anymore. It's placed on the table. No one has any attachment to it anymore. And then the group seeks to find the best solution or the best decision for that time and make a unified decision together, preferably unanimously as much as possible. And if not, then they can take a vote. And this process can be used in anything, in family life. I mention it kind of as if it's in a committee or in a council, but it could be in a conversation between 2 people as well. Development of virtues. The Baha'i teachings say that in the same way that we have arms and legs and eyes and ears that were developed in the womb, that we need in order to live a productive life here on this earth, in much the same way we are developing our spiritual virtues for the next world, that we'll be using them even more. And so, for example, some of these virtues, Baha'u'llah says that truthfulness is the foundation of all the human virtues. Courtesy is the prince of virtues. And Abdul Baha says that desolation and ruin are the result of war, strife, and quarreling, while all development and progress are fruits of the lights of virtue, cooperation, and concord. The Baha'i community has more than 5 million members around the world. On the right, you can see a picture of the International Baha'i Convention with Baha'is from virtually every country. In fact, the Baha'i faith is the second most geographically widespread religion outside of Christianity. You could spin a globe, and as long as there's no water there, put your finger down, and there's definitely Baha'is there. And there's 2,100 indigenous tribes and ethnic groups represented in the Baha'i faith. Baha'is reside in over 100,000 localities. There's 188 national spiritual assemblies. And there are currently 13 houses of worship around the world. And the Baha'i World Center is in Haifa, Israel. Also in the Baha'i practices, these are like day-to-day practices or annual practices. I think the annual one is the fast, so we'll get to that in a second. But the loving all human beings and consorting in fellowship with them is, of course, paramount. Daily prayer. There's an obligatory prayer that we say every day. We can actually choose from 3 of them. There's a short one, a medium one, and a long one. And so for modern life, it's very doable, easy, convenient, but also consistency is very important in that process. It's like spirituality is also a muscle. And, if you don't go to the gym, you lose it. If you don't pray, you can lose it too. So that obligatory prayer is very important. And along with that is reading the sacred writings every morn, every eve, and fasting for 19 days from sunrise to sunset during the Baha'i month of fasting, which is just before our New Year celebration in March. And then observe the 9 holy days where we take work off and attend the feast, which is a gathering that takes place every 19 days, where the community gets together and consults on its affairs. And then make a pilgrimage once in your life, at least, to one of the Baha'i holy places, which technically are included the houses of Baha'u'llah in Iran and in Iraq. But because those are very dangerous places, we can only do our pilgrimage to Israel right now. And so we go to Akka and Haifa to visit the shrine of the Bab, which you saw in the previous photo with the golden dome, and the shrine of Baha'u'llah, which is in Akka. And then we do not consume alcohol or abusive drugs. This is one of the Baha'i teachings, not to take anything that's mind-altering. There's no food limitations in the Baha'i faith. We don't have a particular diet or practice. We're trying to eat healthy and do the best that we can, but there's no dietary restriction. And we try to offer service to others. Service and worship are the 2 key daily practices for Baha'is. So service is paramount. And another interesting fact about the Baha'i faith is that for the Baha'i funds, when we collect donations, we only accept contributions from Baha'is, only from Baha'is only. So it's kind of an ethical and spiritual practice. We want that money that comes to the funds to be donated by the people who they're dedicated to that and they've committed to that. And so we don't want to just solicit funds from everybody and take it from anywhere.
When we look at the Baha'i calendar, many religions actually have their own calendars. as do we. Ours is made up of 19 months with 19 days each month. You quickly do the math on that and you say that's 361. So we have 4 to 5 days left over. And that is called intercalary days, or Yamiha. And during those days, that's a time for gift giving and parties and service to others. We also, by the way, interestingly enough, with our calendar, like other uh, religions, the day begins at sunset as opposed to midnight. Some of our major holy days, some of them have already been mentioned. Nowruz, or New Year's, is the first day of spring. It's tied to the vernal equinox. We have the month of fasting, which is the last 19-day month of the year. So that's, as Nicholas said, is right before Nowruz, New Year's. Then we have Rizwan festival, which means paradise, and it is considered the festival of festivals. It goes, it's held for 12 days, basically because that's basically how long the event took place. There was the declaration of Baha'u'llah's mission. And so we have on the 1st, 9th, and 12th days of Rizwan, work is to be suspended. And then we have other days that there's 9 of them total that where work is to be suspended. And then we also have other holy days that I've mentioned in here as well, of which all of these are the ones that work is to be suspended. And that actually is also school. So that's kind of how that works. Service is, again, Nicholas mentioned, is paramount. So we want to provide service to others. We can provide that individually, but then we also may have special efforts where we're doing that, or we may be partnering with like-minded organizations to provide that service. And we also have a few programs. We have a junior youth empowerment groups. And with that, this is, if you think about junior high, that's kind of a special time in a child's life. I personally think it's the worst time of a person's life, but that was my own experience. Basically, it allows them to be empowered to help others and their community. So if they recognize that they have the power to make change and they have the power to help others, then that kind of encourages them toward that type of development. We have devotionals, which recognize that we are spiritual beings. And, you know, you kind of say, if we recognize we're spiritual beings, what should we be doing? Well, we should be working on our spiritual development. So devotionals are where we get together to try to recognize our relationship with the Almighty and strengthen that relationship. We have children's classes, which are teaching children about the development of virtues and the fundamentals of the Baha'i faith. And then we also have study circles, which are an opportunity for youth and adults to get together to discuss the fundamental verities of the Baha'i faith in a spirit of consultation, as Nicholas described earlier. Because the fact it's not a teacher-student type of situation. There's a facilitator, but then through consultation, you kind of understand more about the quotes that you're reading about. And finally, we have the essence of faith is the fewness of words and the abundance of deeds. So with this, we have, here is a ways, if you will, to kind of get a hold of us. There's the 1-800-22-UNITE, which you can get more information and find out kind of like who's close to you. I've provided some websites here, 2 of which are national sites, the Baha'i.org and the Baha'i.us. In both of those cases, you can get more information about the Baha'i faith as well as able to make contact. I've given you here basically the East Valley websites, but there are also websites in Phoenix and the West Side. So with that, are there any questions?
Thank you so much, Peggy and Nicholas. This is a wonderful presentation, and I really appreciate learning from you.
Mhm.
My one of my questions is about so you mentioned that you interact with all diverse religions, and I wonder if it's part of your books to read other religions' teachings or other religions' books.
Um, Actually, yes, it is one of those things where we frequently, well, I don't know about frequently, but we include those as spiritual guidance that has been given by God, and so therefore we'll include studies of other religions and other books, holy books. Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, I actually included another little infographic that you can download. It's a short one-page introduction into the faith in the chat. And one of the quotes in there actually says that, ask a Baha'i to deny any of the great prophets, to deny his faith, or to deny Moses, Muhammad, or Christ, and he will say, I would rather die. A Baha'i denies no religion. He accepts the truth in all and would die to uphold it. He loves all men as his brothers, and whatever class or whatever race or nationality. So actually the progressive revelation that I was mentioning earlier, it kind of requires us to be very familiar with all of the religions. And when I was young, my parents taught me that I need to go and attend the meetings of different religions, different religious groups, and that was important as part of my upbringing as a Baha'i.
In my family, that was also something that we did. My father was an Orthodox Jew, or was brought up as an Orthodox Jew. My mother was brought up as Greek Orthodox, and we ended up being Baptists. But we attended a lot of different religious groups and found that it really helped us to understand what it was that we wanted to believe in, and that other people could think differently than us. I am involved with Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, and we're going to be putting on a Hiroshima memorial on August 8th. And I would love to have somebody from the Baha'is speak at that. We're asking people to speak from 3 to 5 minutes. And I wonder if either of you would like to be a speaker representing the Baha'i, and if you could provide me with an email address for you specifically.
I think that would be lovely.
Yeah.
So
So
Reach out to us and we can get David to do it. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah. So maybe put a personal email address for whichever one of you would be willing to speak.
We will put both of our email addresses for you, and
Okay.
we'll discuss it. If I'm out of town, Peggy will come. If Peggy's out of town, I'll come.
Okay. Got it. Thank you so much.
great,
Let's
wonderful.
go back to some questions. Was everything kind of clear in the presentation, or was there anything that didn't make any sense that we should clarify more? Yes, that's
I have a question about where do you meet? We have the Baha'i Center in Scottsdale, and I was wondering if you have any other center similar to this one in Arizona.
so there used to be two Baha'i centers in Tucson. I think they sold both of them. There is a Baha'i center in Tempe, Baha'i Information Center on Rural and Spence, across from the ASU campus. And there is a Baha'i center in Phoenix in the Sunny Slope neighborhood on I think it's Mountain View.
Mhm.
Baha'i Center in Scottsdale is on Shea Boulevard. And there is, let's see, we have a Baha'i Institute school in Casa Grande, Eloy area, which is called the Desert Rose Baha'i Institute. And we also have a summer school, which is up in the forest in Flagstaff, which is called Belmont Baha'i School, and it's in the Belmont area. Flagstaff does not have a Baha'i center, but there is a coffee shop there owned by a local Baha'i that has a lot of Baha'i meetings, including Baha'i firesides, and that one is called Macy's European Coffee House. Yeah, the center in Tucson used to be on 4th Avenue. I think it's closed, and they had another neighborhood center in Kelso. So they are actively looking for new buildings, but they haven't purchased one yet. And I think there used to be a Baha'i center in Yuma. I don't know the address of that. Do you know of any other Baha'i centers, Peggy?
No, I don't. It doesn't
Oh.
mean that they aren't there, but
Yeah.
So, I'd just like to add that we meet in small groups in Phoenix. We have 12, or I think there's 12 groups that meet every Baha'i month. We usually meet in homes. I have the great pleasure and privilege of meeting with some Congolese Baha'is who have been Baha'is for generations coming from the Congo. And we meet in homes, in a home of one of the Congolese Baha'is, and we have our feasts and our devotions in Swahili. And Iman represents the Syrian Baha'is. She's come from Syria to join us. We have quite a diverse community in Phoenix, and I'm so happy that our Council of Nine, which is our local spiritual assembly, has members who are Hispanic, who are Black American, who are Persian, who are physicians, who are lawyers. There's such a diverse and capable group of people that we've chosen because of their capacity and also diversity. We look for diversity in the group of nine that administers our affairs.
Yeah, and Peggy mentioned those activities that we do service in the community. When we have a junior youth group, it's usually in the park or it's in someone's house. Same with a devotional or a study group, like a study circle. All of these things are done very locally and in the grassroots. So those are typically not as much in the Baha'i centers. The Baha'i centers are used for larger gatherings and conferences and administrative meetings and other things like that.
Right.
Also, Peggy mentioned that we have 13 temples or houses of worship. The house of worship in the United States is in Chicago area, in Wilmette, northern Chicago, and it's a beautiful temple. So in the Baha'i faith, we do believe in building temples, which we call them Mashrikol Askar, and which means dawning place of the mention of God. And they're beautiful temples that are 9-sided with domes, gardens for meditation and prayer. And Baha'u'llah says that we should build these houses of worship for all the religions of the world to come together and pray together inside under the dome of them.
And also in Mashriq Athkar, we have all the holy books, right? From all religions, right?
Yes.
So I have question Vaso. Are you called Vaso?
Basu, yeah.
Okay. So when you ask about if we read the other holy books, so as a Baha'i, we, as Nicholas said, like we read the Baha'i holy writings every morning and evening. So for me, as a young Baha'i, like I love to know more about all religions and all the holy writings. So I am reading not just Baha'u'llah writings. I'm reading also the Quran and the Bible and Torah in both languages, in English and in my Arabic language. So I have question for you. So what's called the book, the holy book in Buddhism? What's called your book?
Yes, thank you so much, Iman. And this is beautiful that you are having this connection with all diverse religions. So
Mhm.
in Buddhism, we have a collection of books that are called often Tripitaka or Tipitaka, means three baskets, teachings of the Buddha. And specific in my community, we read something that is called the Dhammapada. That book is very famous. Yes.
So if I want to get one of these books, like to make a collection for different holy books, how can I get it? Like holy book in Buddhism, how I can get
Yes.
it?
Yes, you can find it online, and I will write the name in the chat because
Yeah,
it's a
yeah.
difficult name.
Yeah, write for me the name so I know it's the right book. Okay, thank
Yes.
you.
Thank you so much, Iman.
Also, there's this really good online library, which I will recommend. I'm going to put a link here. You can search all of the holy books of all of the religions, and there's some Baha'is who have put this together. Very useful.
Oh yes, this will be good. Thank you.
Yes, it's wonderful. It's called Ocean.
Yes. Yes.
In our office of Arizona Faith Network, is located in the United Church of Christ, Phoenix Central Church, and we have a interfaith library, so we can also provide some kind of books.
Oh, okay, that's good.
Yes, also the Baha'i Center in Scottsdale has a pretty sizable library, and there's also an interfaith library as there too. Does anyone have any other questions?
How about if we can say a prayer?
That would be lovely.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Uh-huh.
Could you say one for us, Iman?
Yes, but in Arabic or English?
You chant very beautifully, Iman.
Uh-huh. Yes, so
Can you chant for us in Arabic?
in Arabic, because
Yeah.
I want them to understand a Baha'i prayer.
Oh, yes, you're probably right. That would make more sense, wouldn't it?
Okay.
So let's do English this time.
Okay. 1 minute, 1 minute. So I chant in Arabic, but I will try to chant in English just to make, because as Baha'i, Baha'u'llah told us to chant because this is chanting make the, I don't remember what Baha'u'llah say about chanting the prayer.
It's music. It's like a ladder,
Uh-huh.
a spiritual ladder, and
Okay.
it affects our heart.
Okay, I will read. Create in me a pure heart, oh my God, and renew a tranquil conscience within me, oh my hope. Through the spirit of power, confirm thou me in thy cause, O my best beloved, and by the light of thy glory, reveal unto me thy path. O thou, the goal of my desire, through the power of thy transcendent might, lift me up unto the heaven of thy holiness, O source of my being. And by the breezes of thine eternity, gladden me, O thou who art my God. Let thine everlasting melodies breathe tranquility on me, O my companion, and let the riches of thine ancient countenance deliver me from all except thee, O my master, and let the tidings of the revelation of thine incorruptible essence bring me joy, O thou who art the most manifest of the manifest, and the most hidden of the hidden, Baha'u'llah.
Thank you so much, Imam, for this beautiful closing. Really appreciate this time together, and thank you so much, Peggy, Nicholas, Candace,
Yeah.
Barbara, everyone, for joining us today. From my heart, I'm all appreciate this time that we are learning from the Baha'i community. And for me, as a Buddhist monk, it's very important to connecting our diverse religions. So we always welcome you in Arizona Faith Network to continue these conversations. Thank you so much for joining this program today, and we will have more programs to continue these conversations. Thank you, Nicholas, Peggy.
Yeah. Very good.
To all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.